Morning, folks. We're on a journey in our devotionals this week, looking into the issue of trying to create a better theology on the subject of suffering. We read in James 5 that James tells us when you suffer, just pray. And it seems so simplistic, but it's not. It's simple, but it's certainly not simplistic. I want to suggest to you maybe just a couple of reasons as to why we need to pray. We spoke yesterday about prayer is an act of submission to the sovereignty of God, and that's a great place to pray. That's why the most legitimate prayers are prayed in our philosophical or spiritual knees, where we declare before our King that His will needs to be done, even at a time of deep suffering. Now, in the life of Jesus, there was one time where He suffered probably more than anywhere else, and that was clearly in the Garden of Gethsemane. And in His suffering, He suffered so much that He sweat drops of blood. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I'm told that that is a physical phenomena that is reserved for those who suffer to the highest degree possible. And yet here's Jesus suffering so badly and so incredibly, and He cries out in the midst of His suffering, "Father, your will be done and not mine." That's a great place for us to be at a time of suffering, declaring ourselves availing to the will of God. Now, the first reason that I think prayer is important at a time of suffering is prayer helps you not to focus on the situation so that you don't become angry. Now, we all know the devastation of anger, and sometimes when we find ourselves in situations that just get us, and we just want to explode. We just want to let people know that we're unhappy with them. And I don't think I can ever recall a time when I have felt that angry that I have not regretted being quiet. There are times when I have exploded, and I live with the regrets of words spoken that I just regret that I said them. You can't take them back once they've been said. I regret the fact that I've hurt people with things that are actually not true because of my anger and my unsuppressed emotion. And then we look at the other issues of how we deal with anger, and we look at the passive-aggressive model, where we just sulk, or we just say, "I'll get back at you." You know who the master of passive-aggressive anger is? Is Satan himself. Because a person who explodes in anger, that's one thing, and that's one kind of devastation that is left behind. But the passive-aggressive model, I think sometimes is even more destructive. If you think that at creation, Satan got kicked out of heaven, he had it in for God. And so he thought, I can't touch God because God's too big and God's too strong. I'm no match for Him. So passive-aggressive says, I will hurt God by getting at that which He loves the most. And so Satan saw that God loved this beautiful creation of the world, and that His primary love was directed towards mankind and the people that He had made. And so Satan subtly smiled and he says, I know how to get back at God. I can't touch Him, He's too big, but I'll get back at that which He loves, and I will attack that. And that's why we're in the situation of suffering today, is because of the passive-aggressive approach to anger that Satan himself has. Now, these outbursts and all these different things are different symptoms of a heart condition. We need to address the issue of anger, not from an external point of view, but maybe from an internal point of view. You see, anger comes from probably a heart that is not right with God necessarily, and a mind that wants its own way. And if you don't give me my own way, then I'll just have a tantrum, or I'll find some way to get back at you by destroying the things that you love, the passive-aggressive model. But there's only two words I have for you today. If those are the kind of thing that you're doing, the two words are simply, stop it. Stop it. Stop this passive-aggressive thing where I'll get back at people by getting at the things that they love, and I'll sit and sulk, and I'll do it to get my revenge, and I'll get my anger somehow from behind. People, you are destroying yourself more than you're destroying that person. And when we submit to God in prayer, it's like a blessed distraction. That prayer stops us from that kind of anger. if I can, at a time of real anger, when I'm just angry, and if I can just in my mind say, no, that's not the way to go, it's a split-second decision, and to look to God and say, God, let me just declare my love for you. And in that moment of a blessed distraction, something happens up here. Something happens inside here that affects the way that we live. And then all of a sudden, the bad habit that we have developed of anger slowly begins to diminish. And the good habit of looking toward God when we see, that makes me feel better. Now I feel a whole bunch better. I haven't said words that have hurt somebody. I haven't got this anger in my heart at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep and I'm planning my revenge. If I could just take a blessed distraction and in prayer, just turn to God at that moment. People, this is not brain surgery. I hope you've noticed that. This is plain 101 on anger management, a blessed distraction. Because in that split second, we explode. And then over that period of time, we take this passive-aggressive role. Now, Satan is wanting to get at you. He wants you to do this. He will throw situations into your life that will tempt you in the realm of anger and certainly passive-aggressive as well. I hope that you're wise enough, sharp enough, clever enough to be able to discern when that happens. And at a time of provocation, don't respond like that. Respond by looking to God. You see, the first one is just a reaction, but a true response is to say, I'm not looking there. In a split second, I will look to God and I will just stop it. And I will look to Him for His strength and His provision and His guidance. Man, I hope we can do this better. But you have a great day. God bless you. Let's go save the world.